Welcome back to Cow Park Rose. Jason and I are fresh off fireworks fiascos that we learned about over the weekend. Please, if you're going to do it, be smart. That's all I'm going to say. Segment two, we're going to talk about Olympic athlete drama involving Sha'Carri Richardson. Um, I know for a fact ESPN just dropped it, and a ton of other outlets just dropped it. Sha'Carri Richardson, or is it Sha'Carri? Forgive me if I butchered that. But due to her getting popped for marijuana, she is not going to represent U.S. track in the Tokyo Olympics. So there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not, well, one, objectively, it is a rule for the Olympics. They agreed on that. When I say they, I refer to the Olympic Committee, and also the nations. They agreed on that. It's a rule. So you can't say that it's not a rule just because you don't like the rule. But ultimately, a lot of people are pissed off about that because a lot of people are looking forward to watching her perform. I mean, she had a great social media run due to her performance in the Olympic trials. So the fact that she's not going to be there, Jason, is kind of a big deal. What are your thoughts on this so far?
Yeah, I am definitely on somebody who's big into the Summer Olympics. I get excited about it every year when it comes to not just basketball or anything just in general. 'Cause I want USA to win. I want them to win the most goals, the most medals, things like that. And she was a hopeful that thought that she would be able to bring gold in the 100 meters and then help bring gold for the relay team as well. And I think the news you actually just referring to that just dropped is that the track team decided to leave her off of the relay race because she actually was could have been eligible date wise to be a part of that team because after her suspension would have been over. But I guess when that roster was released about an hour or so ago, she was not on it. So so now it's official. She's not going to the Olympics at all in no events. Um, when it comes to the reason as to why she was left off, now Richardson herself doesn't want this, but I definitely don't feel sorry for her one bit. It's a decision she made that she knowingly made, and also did so knowing what the rules are when it comes to what's tested for and what's going to get you suspended or in trouble. Okay, and just so we're clear, and Terrence mentioned she was popped for because she tested positive for THC, which is the chemical found in marijuana. All right. Um, Now I definitely understand her reasoning as to why she did it. I guess she found out maybe a few weeks ago that her mom had died, and that's one method she chose to cope with it was to smoke up a little bit, as I'm sure several people around the country and world do for whatever reason. But and she's garnered a lot of support. A lot of people, saying she shouldn't be suspended. Weed's legal. Blah 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 blah. But one fact that people are forgetting is that, just like we talked about before, the vaccine and masking, things like that, is that even though in your particular state something may be legal, that doesn't necessarily mean the entities within that state or outside of it, who might be bigger than that state, can still make it illegal. So, in a lot of cases, like employers, if say for example the state of Indiana said, "Hey, this is legal," but if your employer says, it might be legal in our state, but for you it ain't because you work for us. Granted, the IOC is not Richardson's employer, but still, they are the gatekeepers for anybody who wants to be an Olympic athlete for their, not even just the United States. Because again, it's the IOC that the doctor for that. You know, so that's the rules for everybody. She didn't follow them by her choice, so I can't feel sorry for her that she got busted for this and can't compete. But again, I understand her reasoning. So that's my initial thoughts on that, Terrence. What about you?
Yeah, Jason. I'm going to say I find I get not allowing her to participate in the Olympics. I understand it sounds a little fucking silly to effectively disqualify someone for participating in the Olympics for weed. That being said, Sha'Carri Richardson has basically said, yeah, I did that shit. I'm human, right? Like in a weird way, Sha'Carri Richardson is taking this way better, at least publicly, than some of her supporters are. And I'm not trying to say I'm a detractor, and I hope no one takes it as a detractor. I'm not anything. I'm not a supporter nor a detractor. I don't know enough about her to say whether I'm a supporter or a detractor. I'm saying objectively, it is a rule, and that objectively, she made track and field more engaging right before the Olympics. Like, even if you are the most virulent opposer of marijuana, and I'm not even on that level, I've just never smoked before. I'm just saying, in a weird way, some of her supporters now have kind of come off so unhinged that, in a weird way, it makes her less sympathetic of a story. The whole situation with her mom passing away, I get that. Listen, I have more vices related to unhealthy coping than I care to acknowledge on today's podcast. That's not what this is about. What this is about is, if you're gonna try and compare this to the Michael Phelps shit, the year that he was in the photo for marijuana, then let's get it fucking right. Let's make sure we're talking apples to apples and not fucking apples to aircraft carriers. That shit outrages me. First off, when Michael Phelps did that shit, it was after the Olympics. If we gonna say that it's wrong, we got to be able to at least get the facts right and say why it's wrong. And we don't need to be making up shit for another Olympian in order to support Sha'Carri Richardson. That is wrong. Michael Phelps did that shit. Michael Phelps, has had his own issues with addiction. Still fucking love Michael Phelps. He represented his country. I hope one day Sha'Carri Richardson also has the opportunity to represent our country. It's just not going to happen this Olympics in Tokyo. If we're proposing, hey, these rules are dumb, fine. Then come up with a plan to get the powers to be to change the shit. Okay? Because just saying a rule is dumb is not going to make it happen for Sha'Carri Richardson or the next Sha'Carri Richardson. That's my point. Don't just be making up shit just because it's convenient. Because that's just as bad as, if not worse, than saying that because you don't like marijuana or you don't like black people, especially who happen to use marijuana, that they shouldn't be allowed to represent the country. It's just as bad, if not worse. Those are my thoughts, Jason.
Yeah, you mentioned Michael Phelps, and yeah, obviously everybody knows the picture with him smoking the marijuana bong or pipe or whatever. Which he was actually he never tested positive for marijuana, if I believe that correctly, but he was suspended for the picture.
Yes, that's the point. He never tested positive,
Right.
and more importantly, even if he did test positive, the fucking Olympics had already happened at the time that the photo came out, and there's no way to fucking prove that he was that he had marijuana in his bloodstream anyway. Like, that's so fucked up to me. So in order to put Sha'Carri Richardson on his pedestal, we're gonna try and fucking turn Michael Phelps into a fucking shish kebab. That's dumb. That's not even good strategy. That's my issue.
Well, yeah, I think that was probably just people, making snap judgments without thinking. Like, hey, wait, oh wait, didn't Michael Phelps get busted for weed back in the day? Which actually, that in itself isn't true. But like you said, that picture came out after the Olympics, and he was suspended for the picture only, and that was it. So, um, but um, you mentioned, hopefully Sha'Carri will come back from this. She is only 21 years old, so age-wise, at least, she has the that in a favor when she could probably compete in the next two Summer Olympics, maybe even three. I mean, there have been Olympic, track athletes who have won medals in their 40s. So I think she can at least go for the next two, probably even three, if not more. So she'll recover from this. I'm sure she'll learn from it. I'm sure she'll probably not do this again and mess this up for herself. And not that she messed up again, because again, that's how, like you said, that's how she chose to cope with it. And I think that's what's made her the sympathetic figure in this. One of two things. One, I think people understand her reasoning for doing it because so many people can actually relate to it when it comes to losing a loved one, losing a parent in particular. As you said for yourself, you found ways to cope, which may not have been the same way she did, but that's what she chose. Um, and I'm sure the fact that she at the time when she used was it was in a state here in the U.S. in which it's actually fully legal in the state of Oregon to use it medicinally and recreationally. So I'm sure getting our hands on some of it was pretty easy. Um, and I think that's probably part of the other reason why she's a sympathetic figure because so many people these days, whether they're right or wrong, they recognize that, or they feel at least that marijuana isn't a big deal, and it shouldn't be a big deal. It's in probably comparison to some other drugs people could be using, whether they're performance enhancing or not. Marijuana probably is pretty tame. you know. So I think people feel that sympathetic towards her as well. And she's got a lot. Again, I mentioned support. She's got a lot of support from celebrities, other athletes as well. And I know you're going to go there as soon as I say this, so don't. But there was a petition signed by 300,000 people, showing support of her. And again, not
A
that I'm saying that.
petition.
Hey. Not that I'm saying that's gonna help get her stuff overturned because it's not. But the point of me bringing that is that just part of the support that people have for her in this, whether for whatever reason they feel like she shouldn't be suspended for it. Um, yeah, she definitely has that sympathy. I think people, and also too, I think with the some people put it as the personality she showed with the nails, the orange hair. People kind of got behind her for that because they liked the fact that she was able to stand out to do that stuff. I saw people say that they're reminded her of like FloJo from back in the day. Same sport, same Olympics, things like that. And And if you're definitely a fan of the Olympics, somebody like that, probably you're looking to get behind. You want to see them win gold. They got a chance. Bring us a couple of golds, if not more. So I think off the bat, us losing one of our top stars in the Olympics that was going to bring us some gold. I think those three things have gotten her support and sympathy. You know, I guess a lot of eyes are going to be on whoever the replacement is for her in that event for the 100 meters and her replacements for the relay because that's all everybody's going to be talking about. Well, they didn't win gold. Well, guess who probably would have? Or they're gonna make jokes about, well, maybe she should have been smoking weed. They can run as fast as her, or whatever joke. Well, those jokes I've already seen, about weed. Maybe weed makes you run faster. So I don't know, but another thing I do want to point out real quick, and I want to see what you think about this. Now, I didn't see any articles confirming this or hinting towards it, but I wonder when it comes to why the IOC makes this a banned substance. And since the IOC deals with a lot of different countries, not just the United States, and that's something that has to be on the ban list because in so many other countries that do compete in these Olympics, marijuana is still illegal. And you can look it up, I'm sure, to see what countries are actually where weed's illegal. And there's several that compete in the Olympics. So I wonder if that's a factor as to why the IOC has to ban that, even though here in this country, things are loosening when it comes to marijuana. What do you think about that?
Um, I think. Well, I think it's interesting that we're in this weird spot where more and more states, because they need the money, they're effectively legalizing marijuana,
That's why Illinois did it.
and yet we will still be broke. It's worked out so well for California, right? And we're also in a weird place because I respectfully disagree, Jason. I'm out here in suburbia, and it's too many moms that judge the hell out of marijuana. And there may be a racial component to that. I mean, we talk about, reefer madness from 100 years ago and the fact that, big tobacco, legal as can get, but because marijuana was viewed as something that black people enjoyed recreationally, it was looked at as morally bankrupt.
I'm not gonna back you and agree with you on that one, man, because
I
I
don't
feel
need
like
you to. I don't need you to. I'm
I
simply
think
stating that's
I say you
the
do need
way
me
I
to. Just kidding.
and not and 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 that's why I'm saying there's a lot of layers there, dude, because you've got the new school which is saying, "Hey man, everything's cool recreationally, do your thing." I'm like, "You still got to have some fucking guardrails." Like what's next? Uh you're going to have the next Ben Johnson wannabe out there doing heroin before a race?
Yeah. I yeah, yeah. I really hope that this country's stance on heroin doesn't get anywhere close to what it is on marijuana. Um, but yeah, that would be an interesting day, and I don't think I'd want to live in this country if that happens. But no offense to heroin or anybody that uses it, but yeah, I no, that's a big no for me, dog.
Yeah, it's a weird space because on one hand we got what's considered acceptable by the general public in certain circles, and then you still got to answer to these governing bodies.
That's what
And the
I'm saying, dog.
IOC is like, yeah, and the IOC is basically just a big the granddaddy of them all. You know, whatever governing body Sha'Carri Richardson effectively got, disqualified from, it was really most likely on the U.S. level on the track and field side because no one's no one in their right mind with the Olympics about to start in a week is going to say, yeah, we're going to send this person over there, even though there's a good chance that the ILC is not going to allow them to actually participate. That just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Now, I do want to bring this up that I think we talked in our meeting that I wasn't really able to find any posts that specifically stated which governing body suspended her. I did find an article from the New York Post, uh, dated from July 2nd, that indicates it was the actual IOC, not the USOC. So there's that. In which
Well,
that,
I'm
in which
looking at this. It says it's. I'm looking at the ESPN article, and it's from the in a statement USATF, which is, I believe, that is the USA Track and Field um, team, or rather, the governing body. So they released a statement on Tuesday at 5:06 Central Time, basically saying it was incredibly sympathetic towards Sha'Carri Richardson's extenuating circumstances and fully agrees that international rules regarding marijuana should be reevaluated.
well, there you go. International rules, IOC.
So it's going to be what I hate is people are going to try and act like, oh, well, the international deal didn't decide anything. It's an international event. Okay. It's not the fucking NBA finals.
Exactly.
Our American perceived arrogance might be on Front Street here, where we think, well, it's cool in the states, ergo it needs to be okay everywhere else.
Right. I mean, and that's going to be the case, and I understand that. But I think people need to. I'm gonna say it. Need to relax, calm down, take a sip of their beers, or I guess take a hit of something else. But they need to relax. I know you're sympathetic towards this woman, and I don't blame you. But she made her own bed. She has pretty much admitted that herself. So relax. She'll be good. She'll be back in 4 years, or excuse me, 3 years now. She'll be back in 7 years after that, and then she'll be back again. So she'll she'll be good. She'll be all right. She'll get her medals. I promise you that. Relax. She'll be good, and so will you.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and who knows, man. Fingers crossed. We haven't heard the last of her, but it is a definite education about what's acceptable in the states versus what's acceptable elsewhere in the globe. All right. That concludes our segment on Olympic athlete drama regarding Sha'Carri Richardson. Coming up next, we're going to talk about something that Jason and I have wanted to talk about a while: the name change for Lakeshore Drive. Coming up next on Cal Park Bros.